Hey guys, it's Mike Lipowski, and as I usually do, I am talking resistance exercise with you, hopefully helping you to make the art and science a little bit easier to understand and implement. Now, I was just recently on a board in which, people were posting up their most recent workouts, and I had made mention that I recently moved myself to a routine in which I was doing a 5x5 with a compound movement at the start of the workout, and then moving on to zone training from that point forward. And somebody had asked me the reason why, because typically when people are laying out these workout routines, they have a specific objective in mind. And I always like to say that you have to take some of these programs with a grain of salt, because as much as we'd like to reasonably predict what's going to happen, it's not that easy to do. I mean, you have a lot of people who have a lot of different needs and abilities. So to dictate that a particular workout is going to help you to achieve X doesn't always fall into place. And so, I don't always buy into the proposed effect of a particular workout routine. What I really believe in is managing your training demands, and especially doing things that are new and unusual. Because as we know, the simplest way to stimulate new muscle development and increases in strength is to disrupt homeostasis, to disrupt what your muscles are accustomed to. And so for me, doing this 5x5 and zone training was just my way of disrupting what I had been doing up until that point. I'd never done the routine before. But I wanted to see, how much I can improve my strength on a few different compound lifts. And so, I decided to give it a go. So right here, this was my 5x5 with bent over barbell rows. And, although I know I'm not the strongest guy in the gym, I try to put my focus more so into how I'm doing my exercises and targeting the muscles as effectively as I can. And I could say with confidence that since I've started this routine, I have seen my strength on a number of my lifts go up. I've been doing this with squats and deadlifts, bench presses, which I hadn't done bench presses for years, but decided to get back into the swing of doing them. Again, just for no other reason than the fact that I had not been performing them, and so I figured it'd be a good way to kind of wake my body up. So I believe this was the last set that I had, or maybe I got one more, these 5x5s. In fact, actually, yeah, this is that fifth set, and hit a point where I couldn't quite squeeze out 5 consecutive ones, so did a little rest pause and tried to eke out one more right there. So that was it for the heavy compound movement. And then, as I said, everything from this point forward went into zone training, which, if you've seen any of my other videos, then you know that zone training is really an effective way of targeting your muscles. I like it because it really simplifies things. When you start to break these exercises up into sections, you can focus on these really short, powerful bursts, and the pump that you get, number one, is amazing. Number two, what I found is it reduces the amount of bracing and increased tension in the body, which over the course of an entire workout is really beneficial because there's less systemic fatigue when it's all said and done. So it's awesome because you get this fantastic muscular pump. Your muscles are basically fried. I mean, they feel like rubber when it's all said and done, but without that systemic drain that, as we know, can really hinder our ability to recover from workout to workout and, be able to add a little bit more frequency, which for some of us, is an absolute necessity. So here I was doing cable pullovers since I don't have a pullover machine. The first set that I had done was broken up into thirds, and then I decided to do a drop set and move into doing it in halves. And so following up that bent over row, my lats already were pretty fried. But of course that wouldn't be enough, and you'll have to mind the fact that I really didn't pay too much attention to how I set up the camera here. Cut off half my body, but here on these pull downs, once again I broke it up into zones. This time I was doing it in halves, so working the bottom half first, and then after my 12 repetitions here or so, I'll move into the top half. And what's also really cool with the zone training is that if you're training to the point of muscular fatigue, I typically do train to failure on most of my exercises, or maybe just a rep shy. What's awesome about this is that you're actually going to hit that point of fatigue more than once within a single set. So you're doing more contractions per unit of time, and the amount of focused effort on a certain area of the range of motion is certainly increased. But like I said, you're also going to reach that point of fatigue more than once. So that's something that's not typical with full range of motion exercise, and that once you hit failure in a certain part of the range of motion, the exercise is over. So following that up, I moved on to a set of seated rows, a compound row, and this time working the back half first. And again, the objective here is to usually get about 24 contractions, which will usually work out to somewhere between 50 and 60 seconds of time under tension, which is why you keep seeing me reaching out for my watch, because I'm not as concerned about tracking my repetitions as I am about staying within the time under tension that I've found to be pretty much ideal for stimulating the maximum amount of muscle fibers for each particular set. And sometimes I'll view it in the terms of cumulative time under tension. So if I'm going heavy, such as in the case of doing a 5x5, the sets are obviously much shorter, but the cumulative time under tension adds up to being about where I would normally be, or even a little bit more, because as I said, the only purpose for this is to try to up the training demands. So following that, I moved on to a barbell shrug. Again, I'm not loading the bar with 3, 4, 5 plates like some guys do. My focus is more on how much tension can I create in the muscle, trying to do it with relatively good form, really concentrating on squeezing the muscle in the most contracted position and just draining the muscle that way. There was a time when I was younger where I'd slap 4 plates on there and hump that thing up and down a million times within about 10 seconds, and really, now doing it with less weight, I'm far more effective, get a much deeper burn, and again, from a systemic standpoint, it's much less draining. And so when I was doing this, I basically did a rest pause, between each of these sets. Again, I cut out the rest time for obvious reasons. Who the hell wants to watch me just kind of hang out after I'm done with each set? But each one was taken to failure and took maybe about 15 seconds tops between each of these. And so by the time I was done, I was pretty much fried. And see if you get one more there, little guy. Barely. And so that really wrapped it up as far as my back workout was concerned. Then I moved on to biceps, in which I only did 2 exercises. The first being these Hercule Curls, in which I was breaking them into halves. That was one of our clients here at Pure Physique who kind of just walked right in front of the camera. Didn't know I was filming, but whatever. And so yeah, working that hardest, most contracted position first, and then I will move right out into the stretch position. And I know a lot of guys are into occlusion training, and if you are, well, this is kind of a cool way to get that same exact effect without wrapping those stupid bands around your arms. You do this and you're going to trap a lot of blood in the muscles. like I said, the pump that you get from performing these zone reps is pretty much incredible. And you don't have to relegate yourself simply to doing it in halves. As I mentioned earlier, I did one of those pullover sets in thirds. In fact, here I actually decided to do an incline dumbbell curl, and I did break it into thirds, starting with the middle. Then I needed to take a rest, went to the bottom, and then to the top. But fortunately, you're not going to see that because the tape ran out and I had no more room. So right after here, it's going to come to a close. And so as it does, I hope you guys got a little insight into the routine, and maybe you could build something around it yourself. But like I said, don't expect anything specific from it, other than a change in your training demands, doing something that your body's not accustomed to. And then you'll have to manage that stress and see if you're able to recuperate from it and make gains. If you're not, then at least glean some insight from it and determine, whether or not that workload is enough or not enough or too much. Because that's basically what I've been doing. And, so far so good. I've been doing these 5x5 workouts and hitting each muscle group once every 4 to 5 days. And from that, my strength gains have been going up just about every single workout. Haven't had one yet where I faltered. So really good to know that with the increased frequency for me, and throwing in some of this mix of 5x5 and zone training, that it's had no negative effect. I mean, my strength has gone up. I've definitely seen some slight changes in my body composition. Nothing dramatic, but at this stage of the game, I'll be more than happy to eke out a little bit more muscle wherever I can. All right, so that's it. I'm going to close out here. See you guys soon.